Let's take you through all the possible setups that you can use for attachment-free training. Let's start in a seated position by doing the single foot attachment first. So again, putting the band around 1 foot in a seated position. What that allows you to do is it now allows you to go ahead and flex the opposite side, which will allow you to keep a more upright posture, especially if you have hamstring tightness. This is a good position to go ahead and use when you have people that cannot maintain a good upright position but increase their lumbar spine flexion. So again, by placing it in 1 foot, typically we're going to go ahead and grasp the band. If it's a pulling exercise, we're going to put it through our wrist, but you can also grasp it and place it just like this if you wish. From there, you can go to a 2 foot position and hook it over 2 feet. Now what this will allow us to do is, one, you will have more hamstring mobility needed. So if you have problems again with hamstring flexibility, you might have to go into more of a bent position. The key is to make sure you're in a very upright position and that your lumbar spine is not being forced into flexion. From here you can go ahead and also widen the feet out, which will engage the glutes as the feet push out against the band. We'll use this setup a great deal for pulling type exercises or curling type exercises. The last position here is you can put a single band over top of the feet, which will then allow us to go ahead and do some simple exercises in that position. From there, we're going to go ahead and we're going to go to kneeling. When we're kneeling, you're going to go ahead and place the band underneath the shin. So the band will come underneath the shin in this position. Opposite foot is here. Now what this will allow us to do is allow us to hook onto the shin and do very aggressive overhead type pushing exercises. Now for most people, this is going to be a very, very challenging position because number one, it's going to put pressure on their kneecap to have to maintain this stability. Number two, the band is going to be doubled, so the resistance is going to be significant. But I want to go ahead and show you it because it is an option for when you are in this position to be able to go ahead and do overhead type pressing. It also will be an exercise where we will attach the handles onto the bands, which will obviously lengthen them and make it a much more effective position to exercise out of. From there, we're going to go ahead up into a standing position. Now in standing, the first exercise we can do is we can go behind our back. This will allow us to obviously do a great deal of pushing type exercises. Now, for some people, this position may be very difficult to get enough resistance on. One of the quickest ways to get more resistance is to take the hand through the band and put it in between your thumb and your index finger. Once again, you're going to take your hand through the band and then wrap it so that it comes between your index finger and your thumb. Now what that will do is it will automatically shorten the band and provide you greater resistance all the way through the range of motion. So again, that is going to be wrapping around your back type position or type setup. From there we're going to go ahead and we're going to drop it off and we're going to wrap it around our foot. So first we're going to go single foot and making sure that our opposite foot is way back behind us. Now this is going to be a much better position for people to go ahead and do pulling type movements. If you have handles on them, they'll be able to do curling type movements. The key here again is I recommend, if you can, slide your hands through the loops to take the pressure off your grip so you can go ahead and do your pulling movements or exercises out of this. From there, we can go to a double leg position where you stand on both bands. In this position, we might go ahead and knock out deadlifts, straight leg deadlifts, or bent over rows. The double leg position is going to put a great deal more pressure on the hamstrings. Subsequently, depending on the exercise you're doing, make sure that you've got good hamstring mobility, good upper body posture, and that you're able to maintain a good hip hinge while performing the movement. If not, you might want to go ahead and look at using a single leg or single foot attachment to begin with. From there, we're going to go to a rack position. Now the rack position is where we stand on the band. Key here is to make sure that you wiggle your feet around to let the band get loose between your feet. You do not want the band to be extremely tight between your feet because you will end up overstretching the band and eventually tearing it. What you want to do is stand onto the band and let your feet wiggle a little bit to loosen it up. Now the band becomes set once your feet get planted onto the floor and the band becomes tight between your hand and your foot. From there we can go ahead and go into a rack position. And there's two positions you can use to hold the band onto the rack position. You can do the crossover position. In this position, you're going to rest the band up onto your shoulders, but make sure it's proximal enough on your shoulder to avoid your deltoid getting overloaded. From there, the band is going to touch in the front of your throat. In order to eliminate that, you want to take your index finger, hook over the band, and pull out. So index finger over the band, hook out, and pull out. Now the band is set up for you to go ahead and do your squatting, your single leg squatting, reverse lunges. Another way to go ahead and go into a rack position is to go into what we call the handheld or hand-hold position or hand-hold position rack. So in this position now, our hands are actually going to be holding the band. We can still do our squatting and our other type of exercises, but it also allows us now to do our overhead press exercises. So by putting it in the hand-hold position, it allows us to now become more upper body emphasis or dominant. From there, we're going to go to the crossover position. Now, the crossover position here is going to be going ahead and putting the band onto our shoulder. The half crossover, which I'll show you first before I get a second red band and show you the second one, is going to be to go ahead and place it in this position. Now, when we hook it onto our foot, I want you to hook it on in this fashion. Do not bend over and hook it on because that will position the band in the wrong place on your shoulder. Instead, what we want to do is we want to grasp the band with our hands, we want to press down, and we want to hook our foot into the band. This will now allow us to go ahead and do split squats, reverse lunges, and we'll also use this to do some dead weight contrast training that will show. But this is crossover position, allows our hands to be free, and allows us to now load unilaterally in this position. Now when you come out of this, you want to push down, step out of it, and let the band come out of your foot. A double crossover position is going to use two bands to do the same exercise. So now we're going to place the second band on us. You'll notice they're crossing over. So what we want to do is we want to go ahead and take the one that's lying underneath the top one first and hook that one on. So you press down and hook into there. The second one now is free to go ahead and use. You're going to press down into that and hook into there. Now the band should rest onto your shoulders so that you're sitting it centrally located between the tip of your shoulder and your neck, and that it's not resting onto the base of your neck. So if that's the case, you want to position it so that you're in this type of setup. This is the double crossover position. It allows us to go ahead and do any kind of closed chain lower body exercise. It's also going to load our torso to go ahead and allow us to do upper body type exercises. Because it's attached directly to our body, our hands are free to move, and even our feet are to some degree able to move. When you get out of this, take the top band first, press down, step out, and then take the bottom band, press down and step out. This allows it to be now placed back into where you started, so when you want to get back into it, you can immediately set yourself back into it and get set up and ready to go. The last series of attachments for attachment-free training is going to be how you go ahead and grasp the band with your hand. There are 4 different types of grasp that we want to show you. The first one is what we call just a loose grip, and that's where you're going to go ahead and just grab the band loosely and do exercises in that fashion. By grabbing it loosely, it's going to require you to have a significant amount of grip strength. It's also going to require you to have a grip that is not going to slip. So again, when you're working with bands and become sweat starts to form and your hands become slippery, you may find that a loose grip does not work very effectively because you're starting to slip and lose tension on the band. A quick way to resolve that is to go what we call wrap around, where you're going to wrap the band around the middle part of your hand. You can do it on one hand only. You can do it on 2 hands. All right. What this not only does, besides improving your grip strength, because now the band has more surface area in your hand to grasp a hold of, it's also going to shorten your band. So now if you're looking for a way to shorten your band to create increased tension, this might be a very effective way to go ahead and do that. Once again, to wrap it, you want to make sure that it's around the middle of your wrist and not over the knuckles. So we do not want to bring it over the knuckles because it'll pinch the knuckles and compress them and could create pain. Instead, what we want to do is we want to go ahead and wrap it around the middle soft part of our hand where we can grip it. The same thing can be done on this side, Or what you can do is just take this hand and put it through the loop, and now you've just created a band that might be more conducive to what you want to go ahead and train with. Outside of that, you can go ahead and loop it on this side. So that's the second way to go ahead and grasp it onto your hands. The third way you can go ahead and grasp it on your hands is do what we call a simple boxer or an easy boxer. That's going to be where you place your hand through the band and you just simply go ahead and put it between your index finger and your hand. You then can go ahead and bring it around, slide your other hand through, and again, put it right between your index finger and your thumb. You now have your hands somewhat free to do grasping type exercises. However, your grasp will be limited here because the band is going to pull your index finger and thumb apart. So what this works best for is pushing movements or boxing type movements or punching type movements when you're using this easy boxer. Now, if you want to go more advanced, you can go to what we call the loop boxer, which is going to be where you take the band and you loop it back on itself and slide your hand through. Now you basically are attaching the band onto your wrist. This position will now allow you to go ahead and bring just one loop up over top of your hand so that the hand now has a much freer grip because the tension is going to be put more at the wrist. To put it onto the other hand, you're going to have to bring it around, loop it back, hold the loop with your hands, slide this hand through both loops, and then loop it over top of your hand while you hook it down. What again this does now is this easily allows me to grasp things, so I can go ahead and easily grasp or hook onto things. You can obviously do this with a single hand too, in that you can go ahead and let it out and just have this hand grasping if that's the exercise you need to do, go ahead and use it for. So those are the ways that you're going to go ahead and grasp the band with your hand. So that's the series of attachment-free setups that we will use as we go through all the exercises in this library.